My dreams have come true. Trillium made it. Dry hop Brett Saison. Possibly my favorite style of beer. They did it kind of in a similar way to the collaboration with De Proof that came out, the Bouquet. But this one they're calling a Grisette because it's a lower alcohol saison, 5.5%, not super low, and it's dry hop with Motueka, which they've never used before to my knowledge, and they also use spelt in it, which I don't think they've used either. And also there's apparently just a touch of rye. So this beer was fermented with their saison yeast, and then I guess they added in secondary Brettanomyces in some way, and then it was dry hopped. It's part of their permutation series where they just do experiments. It's the second one, which totally different from the first one they did. And as you can see on there, it says July 25th, 2016. And this was just released in bottles at the brewery like yesterday. And yesterday was the 13th of September. So I'm guessing they were bottle conditioning it is why there's the gap, because usually they release their hoppy beers as fast as possible. But they didn't say anything about bottle conditioning on the description on the website or anywhere on here. It's a very simple label, though kind of nice. And I'm very excited to try it. They didn't say anything about whether it's ageable, but since it's dry hopped, I want to give it a try. And actually, I've had another dry hopped, Motueka dry hopped saison recently. It was from Prairie, and I loved that one, so I'm guessing this is going to be really good. And the Brettanomyces character is probably going to be a little more pronounced than it would be if it was just bottle conditioned with Brettanomyces, because it was in secondary, I think, in some way, and it's had some time to sit. And I didn't really see much in the way of sediment on the bottom. It's looking like it's bottle conditioned. And pretty nice head. It's very light, but it's a little bit rocky. So like thin looking. It's not thick and soapy. It's got lots of bubbles, lots of big bubbles, but I'm smelling it already, and it's super, super pale color. But there is some haze, definitely. It's not as hazy as a lot of Trillium's really turbid IPAs. The head's sticking around pretty well, but yeah, that aroma is definitely a Saison and a Brettanomyces Funk combo. It's still got a lot of juicy Saison pear, which I think blends with Motueka nicely. Motueka is a hop that I haven't experienced just by itself too often, so I haven't completely pinned it down. Yeah, it seems like all the different elements are really blending together in the aroma quite well. Yeah, it's got lots of orchard fruits, I guess. Every single orchard fruit you can think of, except it's juicy pear, but then it's more like unripe peach, maybe. Of course, it's got just a touch of musky farminess. It's not all out barnyard, like woody hay. It's just like light hay, with a little bit of like lemony lime happening too. Yeah, it smells super fresh and refreshing. There's no old hop character or anything quite like that. And as I always like to say, Brettanomyces helps to preserve the hops by eating up any oxidation that may occur. Well, not any, but most of it. Yeah, and there's just a little bit of a sort of juicy mango pineapple thing happening too when I breathe real deep. Yeah, but not like super ripe mango or anything. It's more like unripe pineapple and just very, very, very lightly tart. Yeah, it's very pleasant. Nothing too harsh or bitter pill-like or too funky. Ooh, yeah. A lot of the same flavors on the tongue. It's got a pretty light body. But there is enough sweetness to carry those fruits all the way through to the finish. It's not ridiculously dry in the finish like some saisons, especially Brett saisons, can be. And it's a lot of fruity, smarty flavors in the finish. It's not super chalky aspirin really at all. It's much more like chewing on Smarties than a bitter pill, which is really nice. It's a kind of softer Brett saison, I would say, perhaps. Not quite fluffy on the tongue. The carbonation is kind of high. I can see some little bubbles coming up, but I bet if you age this a little bit, it'll get just a little bit more carbonation and be nice and light and fluffy. But right now, it's plenty carbonated. I like it quite a bit the way it is. But I love that just very subtle musk on top of all these great orchard fruits. But it's not just straight up apple cider like some Brett beers can be, where it's just like, oh, this is just almost tastes just like some boring cidery thing, and it's like eating all the sugars like a super dry cider. There's still a lot of nice beery body left in this. And most saisons that have spelt in them, I always feel like that graininess of the spelt. I don't even know exactly what spelt tastes like, but I feel like it blends with the saison yeast very nicely. And now I'm getting a little bit of a weird funk happening, which I like, but it's warming up and I can get my nose real deep into the glass. Yeah, there's something that's on the edge of porta potty that I get from Brettanomyces often. But you gotta get real deep in there. Yeah, this is very, very nice. There's like no mess ups, I'd say, with their use of Brettanomyces in this beer. And I've never done a beer quite like this. I'm sure Brettanomyces is involved in their sour barrel-aged beers, but this is the first time they've done just a dry hop Brett beer. But it's not the dry hopping is not the ruling a show on this beer at all. I would say it's very much the yeast blended with the hops are the main elements, and there is plenty of malt body to give it a juicy sort of flavor, and it's not really it's barely tart. It's not a sour as people might say. And the Motueka, like, I'm trying to figure out if I'm getting any kind of resinous green qualities that aren't really noticeable. I guess I do. I do get a little bit of a minty thing, but I also get that from Brettanomyces too. It seems like they just got the hop flavor and the yeast flavor to match up so well. Like they're coming together all kind of seamlessly in this beer. But it's got a substantial funk. At first it didn't seem like it, but yeah, once it warms up and then I can get my nose deep in there, it's got something. But you have to think about it and you have to look deep into the flavor, and especially the aroma to notice that funk to it. I don't think it would be off-putting to most people. But even it's still really refreshing and a perfect amount of bitterness and slight, chalky smarties in the finish. Really pleasant. But it doesn't have quite as much of a tropical fruit aroma as you might expect. And Motueka is still, it's a New Zealand hop, I believe. And a lot of New Zealand hops often have this peppery quality. Maybe I should look for a little bit of green pepper or something. I mean, there is definitely a peppery thing. It's not quite clovey, which I like. Sometimes saison yeast can be all banana clove, and like, if I want that, I'll drink a Hefeweizen. But yeah, maybe a little bit of that. There's a little bit of some pepper. It's not like fresh cut bell pepper. It's more like old, dried, mild pepper or something. Especially black pepper too, though. But I like I like it quite a bit. But I bet they could do something like this and maybe give it a little bit more of their IPA style dry hopping. And it would be a little bit more of a blend of a Brett Saison with their IPA style, because this doesn't really fit with the IPA style hopping. But with their other Saisons, they don't really go overboard with the hops and the dry hopping because they want that yeast to come out. I definitely like this more than their other dry hop Saisons. I'll give it like a 90 or something. It's really well done. I hope they keep doing beers like this often and switch up the dry hopping. Because yeah, Motueka works really well with the Saison yeast, but I'd like to see how they'd use, you know, like Galaxy on top of a Brett Saison or something like that. I don't know if I've had a beer like that, except for maybe a barrel-aged one, but those ones are my favorite. So yeah, let's do 90. 90 bags of popcorn and 2 sodas for number 2 of the permutation series.